Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy and welcome to the fifth and final video in the Mother Clucker Clan's guide to Destiny 2's reprised Crota's End raid. For one last time, I'd like to thank my clanmates Aaron PK, Electric Sheep, Hafyu, Jester, Minonai and Tooks for running the raid all that time ago in October 2023. We'll be taking you through the final encounter where you'll face Crota, son of Oryx, in the Oversoul Throne Arena. Your aim is simply to defeat him to end the raid. For those with experience of the D1 version of Crota's End, you'll notice that the boss fight is subtly different. Back then, 5 Guardians would stand with Jallarhorns on the Shelf of Heroes to remove Crota's shield and stun him, while a single sword-bearing Guardian would repeatedly swoop in to damage his health with a Hive Sword while he was kneeling, before making a rapid withdrawal when he woke up again. That's now the other way around. In order for the whole Fireteam to damage him in the D2 version, you'll first need Guardians to remove an immunity shield with Hive Swords that, as you did in the bridge encounter earlier, you'll obtain by killing a Yellow Bar Swordbearer Knight. You'll force the Knight to appear by killing a sequence of Revenant Orange Bar Hive enemies in turn, picking up the sword that's dropped by the Swordbearer using the Enlighten buff which you'll gain from using the Chalice of Light. You'll be staying in the same arena that you've just defeated Eryut the Deathsinger in. While the location stays the same, different areas will now be important for the new encounter mechanics. Assuming you've just grabbed your Eryut loot, you'll start off on the Crota Seal just outside the Summoning Crystal Chamber. The encounter is started by all of your Fireteam standing next to the Summoning Crystal itself, which is behind you as you look out towards Crota's Oversoul, the big broken sphere in the sky. So, if you didn't get a good look around earlier, now's your chance to do so, although I'd advise waiting until after you've made any changes to your loadout and use the rally banner so you don't inadvertently pick up any ammo bricks that you can see. These will be much more useful if left to use to refill ammo during the Crota fight. For this encounter, the Oversoul Throne Arena can be thought of as basically 2 levels, the pit in the middle and the bottom rooms in the towers being the ground floor, while the circular raised path that leads all the way around the arena and everything at that level, including the top rooms in the towers, is the first floor. The 3 balcony rooms above the Summoning Crystal play no part. At the back of the arena on the left and right sides are the 2 towers, each with a bottom and top room. The bottom room is one of the minor add spawn locations, while the top room is where 2 Orange Bar Revenant Boomer Knights per side will appear. At the back of the pit area is a spawn door, where the Swordbearer Knight will appear from. In front of this is a small platform on which the Chalice of Light podium, where you'll go for the initial pickup, sits. Adjacent to this small platform on both sides are flat areas that look like oil slicks from which Orange Bar Revenant Ogres will spawn, and after that where Orange Bar Revenant Wizards will spawn. The Knights, Ogres and Wizards are part of a Revenant ad clearing cycle that you'll use to spawn the Swordbearer. Towards the front of the pit you'll see that the Preserve Bucket is in the same place as it was for the Eryut fight. You'll see on the map there are 5 areas highlighted around the Preserve Bucket. 3 in the pit area, which we'll call bottom right and left and mid, and 2 on the circular path next to the Crota Seal, top left and right. These names have been consistent in every Fireteam I've been in to run the raid, so, for once, you should be able to avoid the usual extended flame wars over a naming convention for a Bungie raid arena. I'll explain what these areas are for in a bit. The unique mechanic you'll use throughout Crota's End is the gaining and use of the Enlighten buff and managing debuff timers along the way. I cover these mechanics more fully in the first video of this series, so I'll just describe them here in brief. Picking up the Chalice, either from a podium or as we call them a bucket, or from another Guardian, starts a meter that will fill after 30 seconds. It fills faster if you or anyone nearby is killing adds. This can reduce the time to nearer 20 seconds. When the meter is full, a 10-second engulfed with light debuff timer starts. You must get rid of the Chalice before this reaches 0, either by preserving the Chalice in a bucket or by another Guardian claiming it from you, or you will die. Having the Chalice taken from you by a Guardian grants the key raid buff named Enlightened. This buff is what is used to interact with objects in the raid to enact its encounter mechanics. After using the buff, you'll then start a 45-second Drained of Light timer. While you're either enlightened or drained of light, you'll be unable to claim the chalice again. One Guardian can take the chalice from another before their meter fills and the engulfed in light timer starts. This is a technique called juggling, which prevents anyone from gaining the enlightened buff while still keeping the chalice with the Fireteam as it makes progress through an encounter. Finally, you'll find podiums of light, we call them buckets, at locations throughout the raid. These can be used to preserve the chalice, storing it temporarily. Preserving the chalice, even if your meter's full, won't grant the enlightened buff, but it will start the drained of light timer. As you'd expect, the application of the Enlighten mechanic to the Crota fight is an evolution of its use from previous encounters with a couple of new debuffs to contend with. After collecting the Chalice of Light, you'll start enlightening just as you've done throughout the raid, but if you look in your feed, you'll see that from the moment he appears you have a debuff called Presence of Crota. This will prevent anyone from interacting with the Chalice. To do so, and claim the chalice to enlighten the chalice holder, the claiming Guardian will need to stand next to them in a pool of light that appears in one of the 5 areas that was marked on the arena map. You'll hear a chime sound cue and see the debuff disappear from your feed when you do so. The location is changed randomly each time the chalice is successfully claimed from a chalice holder and should be something the Fireteam looks for and calls out each time. You'll be using the Enlighten buff for 3 purposes. 2 essential and 1 optional. First, you'll need it to enlighten and pick up Ascendant Hive swords from Yellow Bar Major Swordbearer Knights, much as you did in the bridge encounter. You'll also need the Enlighten buff to be able to damage Crota's Oversoul to stop a wipe mechanic. Finally, you can, as you did in the Yut encounter, use the buff to expunge Crota for a chunk of boss damage. As before, this is strictly optional. The Cluckers tend not to, but if you find yourself with time, it can make for a more reliable boss kill in 2 damage phases. As always, using the Enlightened buff for any reason will start the 45-second Drained of Light timer. For the first 30 seconds or so, you'll split into 3 teams of 2. Guardians 1 and 2 will head straight out to the chalice, pretty much ignoring adds. You'll also need 2 ad clearing teams to deal with the left and right rooms. It doesn't really make a huge difference, but it makes more sense for the Fireteam roles once you get outside if Guardians 3 and 5 clear the left room and 4 and 6 clear the right. For the rest of the encounter, the way the Cluckers set up is to assign Guardians 1 and 2 to sword carrying roles. They'll be claiming the chalice initially, looking for the pool of light, charging the chalice meter and enlightening, and then searching for the Swordbearer Knight. After killing it, with the help of the ad clearing team, they will enlighten and collect the sword, ready to use it in the boss damage phase to strip Crota's immunity shield. Guardian 3 is responsible for ad clearing in the pit and for oversoul disruption duty. So, as well as helping control ads in the pit generally, focusing mainly on the left hand side, they will take the chalice from Guardian 2 when they're ready and then enlighten themselves, hanging on to the buff until the end of the boss fight to be able to stun the oversoul. Guardian 4 will also undertake pit ad clearing and preserve the chalice, again helping control ads in the pit on the right side and also responsible for claiming the chalice from Guardian 3 to store it in the preserve bucket ready for the next cycle if you need it. Guardians 5 and 6 will be the tower gunners, Guardian 5 on the left side and 6 on the right. For once, ad clearing is a little more involved than shoot stuff, don't die, as it will need those responsible to cycle between the 3 Revenant ad types and coordinate with the rest of the Fireteam so that swordbearers spawn and are killed when needed. As I said previously, you'll start off the encounter by kissing the crystal, having all of your Fireteam standing right next to the crystal to spawn Crota. You'll know you're close enough when you see a green smoky haze on screen. Summoning him will take a few moments, during which the green hive barriers will appear again and stop you leaving the central crystal room. In the distance you'll see the various bits of debris under the oversoul assemble themselves into what look like bull's horns before Crota appears on the seal outside the summoning crystal room, the Presence of Crota debuff begins and ad spawns start. At the same time, the usual hidden timer will also start. This gives you something between 4 and 5 minutes to set up a boss damage phase before wipe mechanic timer is triggered. You'll see an on-screen warning that Crota's Oversoul looms large if you dawdle too much. If you see this, a few seconds later a 30-second oversoul debuff will appear, and you'll have until it reaches 0 to damage the oversoul or your team will be wiped. As with Iryut, this oversoul timer doubles as the damage window timer, so delays will also eat into your opportunity for boss DPS. Once the barriers drop, the 2 sword guardians will head out to claim the chalice from the podium and start enlightening. Once they have it, they'll need to look around to check the location of the first pool of light and call that out. The other guardians will head out, clearing the left and right crystal side rooms as they go. Everyone should focus on killing all the adds here. The Boomer Knights won't appear until all of the orange bar knights and wizards are dead, so if you're one of the tower guardians you'll need to help out. Once outside, the ad clearers will head to the towers to kill the 2 revenant Boomer Knights in each. When that's done, the revenant ogres will spawn in the middle, together with the sword bearer knight from the spawn door at the back of the pit area. The whole fire team should work together to take the ogres and swordbearer down, calling out to the chalice holder where the swordbearer knight is so they know the location of the sword for pickup. When the swordbearer is killed, the first sword guardian enlightens and collects it, and everyone will see the message "Guardian name has picked up the sword" on screen when that happens. Once the ogres are down, that starts a spawn of 2 solar shielded revenant wizards 3 times, so 6 in total. Killing all 6 respawns the tower Boomer Knights again, so after the first few are killed, the tower gunners should start making their way back to their towers to be ready for when they appear. It's obviously important to try and organise the appearance and death of the Swordbearer Knight to coincide with the enlightening of each of the Sword Guardians, as the sword will despawn after 10 seconds or so. While all this is happening, as well as the fire from adds, Crota will be circling on the pathway above, using his Arc Darkness Blast attacks. These can melt shields and health very quickly, so keep one eye out for whether he has line of sight to you. It could be me, but I find that he is particularly aware of when anyone is standing in a pool of light, so when claiming a chalice it's probably best to get in and out as fast as possible and use invisibility, a healing rift or a towering barricade to make life a bit easier. As each sword guardian picks up a sword, it's possible for them to make their way to Crota to damage his immunity shield one at a time, but the Clucker preferred method is to wait for both of them to get a sword and to try and remove his shield in a single go, as long as you don't take too long to do so, as the sword will despawn from your hands after a couple of minutes. In the meantime, you can help out a little with ad clear, but be aware that dying will set your team back by a minute or so, so don't be too aggressive and make sure to avoid hitting the cursed thrall. Once the second sword guardian has enlightened and picked up, and the oversoul guardian starts enlightening themselves, you can then leave one of the last 2 wizards alive. Once the oversoul guardian is enlightened and the preserver guardian is making their way to the preserve bucket, the rest of the fire team can make their way to the summoning crystal rooms to assemble for boss damage. The Cluckers prefer to do boss damage near the Crota seal outside, which is out of range of the Boomer Knights in the towers. To encourage him to reposition where we want him, the fire team needs to hide out of sight inside the rooms. Doing so will make him stop using his Darkness Blast attack and run round to the seal area outside. You can keep track of him using the third person view when you have a sword equipped. Once the Preserve Guardian returns, they will join the rest of the fire team. We like to have both Sword Guardians together alongside a Void Hunter who can use a smoke grenade to make everyone invisible. Then the whole fire team can run out, and if someone has a handy healing grenade to throw at Crota's feet, that means that the Sword Guardians can get over to Crota safely and then have restoration and an overshield to survive his sword slam attack. If you're one of the Sword Guardians, the best combo to use to strip the shield in one go is to get close and perform one heavy attack and then a sword super the moment you see damage numbers appear. This cancels the backswing animation, which should then give you time for 2 further heavy attacks before the hive swords disappear. We like to set up one Guardian with a tractor cannon to run out with the Sword Guardians. This increases the damage from the hive swords by the same 30% as it does for other damage sources, making it easier to strip his shield. Once that's done, Crota will take a knee, indicating he's now vulnerable to damage. You'll see the message Crota summons his Oversoul. The Oversoul will activate in a burst of green fire, and the 30-second Oversoul debuff timer will start, assuming that you've not taken too much time and seen the Oversoul Loom's message so it's not already running. Now's the time to drop a Well of Radiance. If you're really good, and needless to say we generally aren't, you can drop the well on Crota's back as he kneels, so he carries it around with him as he moves. If the well sword is planted in the ground, it can be broken by Crota if your Warlock's resistance is low. Keep an eye on the timer, but be ready to drop the second well early if this happens. With a well in place, you can go to town with boss damage. The Oversoul will become brighter as the timer runs out. Your Oversoul Guardian will need to keep a close eye on the timer in their feed, as they'll need to disrupt it before it expires. Disrupting the Oversoul also ends the damage phase, so you'll want to leave it as late as possible without putting your Fireteam at risk. It's a fine balance to find. Like most of the raiding community, the Cluckers use a rapid-fire fusion rifle to do this, and we wait until there's 3 seconds on the timer before starting to shoot. 2 shots will disrupt the Oversoul. When this happens, there's an obvious visual clue for everyone in your Fireteam, as the green firelight is immediately doused, suddenly reducing the light level in the whole arena. At this point, everyone, except Guardian 1, who goes to reclaim the chalice from the bucket, should head back inside the summoning crystal room to rinse and repeat. Note that whoever is stunning the Oversoul will need to be careful to do damage to Crota with any projectile weapons from the side. If Crota is standing between you and the Oversoul, it's all too easy for a stray shot to hit it, bringing your damage phase to an abrupt end. You'll see that Crota does have a last stand marker on his health bar. If you're close to it, decide amongst your Fireteam whether you have enough heavy ammo and damage supers to finish him off, or whether it would be better to go through another cycle of sword enlightening to give everyone a chance to top off their ammo reserves. Many a run has been brought to an early end by overcommitting to the last stand. Once you do damage him enough to trigger the last stand, his immunity shield will return briefly and he will perform a damaging AoE attack, so stop firing and stand back a little before he becomes vulnerable again. He'll again summon his Oversoul, this time with only a 20-second timer. Burn through your supers and heavy and special ammo to finish him off, but if you need more time, the Oversoul Guardian can reset the timer once by damaging the Oversoul one last time to give the Fireteam a final 10 seconds. But, just to emphasise, this is not an additional 10 seconds, it's a reset to 10 seconds, so you need to watch the timer as before and wait until it hits 3 seconds. If you shoot it at the start of the final damage phase, you'll actually be reducing the time for damage and likely be condemning your team to a quick wipe. Once you kill Crota, the encounter ends, all the buffs and debuffs are removed and any remaining adds will despawn. There is a bug to be aware of that once you've killed Crota, the Oversoul timer won't stop and will still wipe your Fireteam, but fortunately, by the time this happens, the arena will no longer be a darkness zone and you'll all instantly revive. You'll have 3 cycles, and so 3 boss damage phases to kill Crota. If he still has health left at the end of the second, you'll get a message that Enrage is near on screen. If he still has health after 3 damage phases, the Oversoul will proceed to wipe you all. When you're done, the loot chest will appear underneath the Oversoul. You'll be able to drop the Swordbreaker shotgun, Abyss Defiant auto rifle, Word of Crota hand cannon, helmet, arms and class item. If you've completed the Deep Sight Statues puzzle, you'll drop an additional weapon which is guaranteed to be a Deep Sight weapon that you haven't currently completed the pattern for. If this is your first time clearing Crota's End, you'll also drop a Husk of the Pit auto rifle and the start of an exotic weapon quest called Bottomless Pit that will lead to obtaining the Necrochasm exotic auto rifle. As you can see from Kyber's infographic, there's also a separate exotic catalyst quest once you've obtained Necrochasm, so you'll be seeing a lot more of Crota's End to finish everything up. The chest also acts as a vendor called Throne World's Riches, which will allow you to buy raid weapons and armour from Crota's End. The vendor will also sell 1 Deep Sight raid weapon per week of any you have yet to complete the pattern of. As was the case with Ir Yurt, the majority of the problems you're likely to face are from people dying inconveniently. If someone dies with the chalice, then prioritise picking the chalice up over reviving the downed guardian. If it despawns, you'll need to reclaim it from the bucket again. Anyone can pick the chalice up, but it's less disruptive if it's one of the fire team that you're looking to get enlightened anyway. If it is, then you can just enlighten in a different order. You'll be starting the boss damage phase together whatever happens, so it won't have any major impact on anyone's rolls. If it's someone that wasn't planning to become enlightened, you can either swap roles, or the revived guardian can juggle the chalice, claiming it from the guardian holder as soon as they're able to. You'll have lost 20 to 30 seconds, but as long as everything now has been on track, you should be able to enlighten the 2 sword guardians and the oversoul guardian before the oversoul starts to loom. If someone dies while holding the enlighten buff, that will put your fire team under a bit more time pressure. Again, like Eryut, you're probably best off adding the revived guardian to the end of the current rotation of people who will be enlightened for this round, and having them handle the oversoul, with the previous oversoul guardian taking a sword to break Crota's shield. This way, if the hidden timer expires and you need to start boss damage, you're more likely to already have your 2 sword knights ready. You don't need the oversoul to be disrupted until the end of the 30-second timer, which gives you a little bit of leeway. The damage phase is going to be scruffy, but that'll be better than the timer running out and wiping your team. A similar problem will occur if your 2 sword guardians fail to remove Crota's shield entirely. In this situation, you'll need your oversoul guardian to act as a 3rd sword bearer, and also enlighten another guardian to handle the oversoul. The best way to handle this situation is to rotate through the Revenant ad cycle again until you kill the knights, spawning the ogres and swordbearer knight to obtain a new sword. Your previous oversoul guardian can pick this up, while another guardian reclaims the chalice from the bucket to become enlightened and become the new oversoul guardian. You'll have to decide on the hoof which of the remaining fireteam members who can still interact with the chalice will take on the role. Try to avoid using the 1st sword guardian again, even if they aren't debuffed by Drained of Light, as you'll need them to be able to reclaim the chalice at the start of the next cycle. Hopefully, Crota will only have a little bit of shield left and you'll be able to remove it before the hidden timer expires, in which case you can proceed as normal. If the oversoul timer does start, like before, you'll have a scruffy damage phase, but hopefully still come through without wiping to the oversoul. I'll now run through an animation to give you an idea of how the first cycle of the Crota boss fight could go. The fire team starts off in the summoning crystal room, clustered around the crystal itself. As they do so, the hive barriers appear, sealing them in while Crota spawns in on the seal outside and adds also start to spawn. When the barriers fall, Guardians 1 and 2 run outside immediately. Guardians 3 and 5 clear the left room, and Guardians 4 and 6 clear the right. Guardians 1 and 2 head out to the chalice bucket, suppressing ads as they go and looking for the pool of light location, on this occasion in the middle. After claiming the chalice, they'll continue with ad clear while staying safe close to the pool while the chalice meter fills. After killing all of the initial ads, Guardians 3 and 4 head down to the pit to assist with ad clear, while Guardians 5 and 6 head to the towers to kill the Revenant Boomer Knights. This starts the spawning of the Revenant Ogres in the oil slicks, together with the Swordbearer Knight at the pit spawn door. When Guardian 1's chalice meter is full, and the Engulfed in Light timer starts, they tell Guardian 2 to claim it from them, becoming enlightened. Guardians 5 and 6 jump down to help the rest of the fire team kill the Revenant Ogres, spawning the first pair of Revenant Wizards. Guardians 1, 2, 3 and 4 then locate the Swordbearer Knight who, for us, wandered over to the left side of the pit. Everyone looks for the new location of the Pool of Light, which is now in the bottom right, while Guardians 5 and 6 kill the first pair of wizards, spawning the second pair. When the Swordbearer Knight is killed, Guardian 1 enlightens and collects the Ascendant Hive Sword. They can loiter in the pit area, helping with ad clear, but should be careful to avoid dying. Guardians 2 and 3 stay near the pool at the bottom right, and together with Guardian 4 continue with ad clear and killing the second pair of wizards, spawning the third pair which they also kill. While this is happening, Guardians 5 and 6 make their way back to the towers to await the Boomer Knight spawns again. As before, when Guardian 2's chalice meter is full, they'll tell Guardian 3 to claim it, becoming enlightened. After Guardians 5 and 6 kill the knights in the towers, the ogres will spawn again, together with a second swordbearer knight. They'll return to the pit area to help the rest of the fire team kill the ogres, look for the location of the next pool of light, which is bottom left, and spot where the swordbearer is, on this occasion on the left near where the pool of light is. Guardians 5 and 6 will deal with the first and second pair of wizards, while everyone else kills the swordbearer for Guardian 2 to enlighten and collect the sword. The fire team now just has to wait, killing minor adds but leaving one of the last 2 wizards alive until Guardian 3's chalice meter is full and Guardian 4 claims it. Guardian 4 can now take the chalice to the preserve bucket while everyone else makes their way to the crystal rooms to prepare for the boss DPS phase. After preserving, Guardian 4 can join them up in one of the crystal rooms. Out of habit, the Cluckers tend to use the left room to assemble in. Everyone now hides from Crota so he can't see them, to prompt him to move so that he's over the seal. When he's in place, your resident Void Hunter can invis your fire team, or a solar subclass can throw out a healing grenade at Crota's feet, or even both, to improve the chances of your 2 sword guardians and Guardian 3 with a tractor cannon surviving getting to Crota and removing his shield. When the shield is down, the Oversoul is triggered along with its timer. Once that's done, one of your warlocks can drop a well and everyone can go to town with their swords. Whoever's running tractor cannon can shoot every 10 seconds or so and then swap to a fusion rifle for a bit of extra damage. Continue damage until the Oversoul timer reaches 3 seconds, and then Guardian 3 shoots the Oversoul twice with a rapid fire fusion rifle to stop it from wiping the fire team and end the damage phase. Once the damage phase is ended, Guardian 1 heads down to reclaim the chalice with Guardian 2 in support, while everyone else runs back inside for cover and then returns to their previous roles to rinse and repeat the cycle. Even though there is some specialisation in roles, the loadouts that you'll all use will broadly handle the same enemies. Like in Ear-Ute, you'll only find solar shields in this encounter on the Revenant Wizards, so it's up to you whether you find the additional damage and momentary flinch useful. With this being a boss encounter, we usually have one set of chest armour that has triple ammo reserve mods that match the energy type of our heavy weapons that we can swap out for ones with damage resistance once we've used the rally banner. I'd say that the most damaging incoming fire is Arc. From Crota, both his Darkness Blasts and sword attacks are Arc, as are Boomer Knights, Cursed Thrall and Wizards, so chest armour Arc damage resist mods are your top priority. Thinking about boss DPS, weapon surge mods on boots and time dilation mods on class items become a higher priority. Using just one can add a 10% bonus to your matching damage. Everyone will need a primary weapon for ad clearing, a burst special weapon for the knights, ogres and wizards, and a sustained damage heavy weapon for boss damage. Ad clearing traits on primaries like Incandescent, Volt Shot or Destabilizing rounds can help clear crowds, while support traits like Demolitionist, Pugilist or Wellspring can help with recovering ability energy. Weapon healing and overshield effects are also useful, like Unrelenting, Heal Clip and Repulsor Brace. Burst damage traits for specials like 1-2 Punch and Trench Barrel on a shotgun, or Chill Clip and Controlled Burst on a fusion rifle, or even good old Vorpal weapon will help take down the elites and mages quickly. Finally, for boss damage, hopefully one person will be using Tractor Cannon to weaken Crota for the extra 30% damage. This could be your Oversoul Guardian in position 3, as they'll need to be using a rapid fire fusion rifle for the Oversoul anyway, so they'll be performing functions that don't need a sword. It's not essential, but it does make a more reliable 2-phase kill easier. Otherwise, everyone should be using swords. From what I understand, Crota is coded to take 15% extra damage from swords, so it's sensible to take advantage of that. You'll be looking for trait perks that extend your ammo count. Relentless Strikes is the obvious choice, and that provide a damage boost. Whirlwind Blade or Vorpal Weapon are probably your best choices, as you'll not be near enough enemies to proc surrounded. If you have them, Bequest or a Vortex Frame sword like Falling Guillotine are S tier. Of course, if you're lucky enough to have the Lament Exotic Sword, this is an excellent choice against Crota, providing top tier damage if you use the damage combo. That's hold block, 2 light and 1 heavy attack, release block, 2 light attacks and then repeat. Plus you get healing for just landing a hit. It's useful to have one Void Hunter for the ability to make Fireteam members invisible with their smoke grenade, whether that's to keep them safe in a pool of light or running out at Crota with a sword. A couple of well warlocks, with at least one of them somewhere in the gunner positions for the first well, are, as ever, very useful for boosting damage output and for tanking incoming damage. Anyone running a solar subclass can also help heal themselves or teammates with healing grenades. The Swordbearer Knight and the Revenant enemies can all be affected by weapon and subclass debuff verbs, so can be disoriented and arc blinded, void suppressed and weakened, stasis slowed and frozen, and strand suspended to slow them down. One last suggestion for the Oversoul Guardian who's using a rapid fire fusion rifle: if you drop or craft a Season 23 scatter signal with slice and controlled burst, then using your class ability and shooting at Crota will sever him and reduce his damage output by 40% for 8 seconds. When this isn't available to craft anymore, hopefully there will be other weapons with the slice trait that you could use if you don't have one. As far as burst damage super subclasses are concerned, Pyrogale Gauntlet Burning Maul and Cuirass of the Falling Star Thundercrash Titans, Celestial Nighthawk Marksman Golden Gun, Star Eater Scales Blade Barrage or Star Eater Scales Gathering Storm Hunters, and Needlestorm Warlocks will let you do big chunk damage quickly so you can get back to using your heavy weapon. Crota was where our run of good fortune finally ran out. We had a forgot to rally moment, a close but we didn't have quite enough heavy for the last stand run, and one run where everything just snowballed into carnage. But, just like the roll-on Jester's crafted retrofit escapade, fourth time was indeed the charm. We shifted the enlightening order around a little, so for our run, Erin and Sheep ran the swords, Jester took care of the Oversoul, Minnow preserved the Chalice with both of them helping out with the pit ads, and Hat and Tooks concentrated on dealing with the rotating Revenant Elite enemies. We start with Sheep moving back from the rally banner to the summoning crystal. Note the green haze on screen when he's standing close enough, and if you have the rumble turned on for your controllers you'll feel that go off too. With the whole fire team in place, the hive shields go up, Crota appears and ads start spawning. As this isn't the first time starting the encounter, the bull's horns underneath the Oversoul have already formed.
That's the sign of a professional raiding team, that is.
After the shields come down again, Erin heads out to claim the chalice from the low column in front of the pit spawn door. On her way, she can see that the pool has appeared in the middle position. The other Guardians clear the summoning crystal side rooms of ads and head outside, with Jester and Minnow moving to the pit area to help with ad clearing. Hat and Tooks head up for the left and right towers for the Boomer Knights, which appear when Sheep kills the last wizard. Erin tells Sheep that the pool of light is in mid, so he heads over to join her.
Yeah.
Oh, the wizard just dropped me an exotic. How nice. Bottom middle is the transfer.
I shall meet you there.
Erin tells Sheep to claim the chalice when the Engulfed by Light timer starts. You can see the additional difficulty that being forced to claim the chalice in a small area under fire provides, as Erin moves about to avoid taking damage, which interrupts Sheep's on-screen interaction prompt. After a couple of additional seconds, Sheep claims it, enlightening Erin. Hat and Tooks take the tower boomers down, then position themselves for the ogre spawns and kill them quickly. Minnow calls out the Swordbearer's location near Hat, so the fire team know where it is to take it down, and so Erin can make her way there. Once there, she enlightens and picks up the sword, starting her Drained of Light debuff timer.
Take it off me please, Sheep. Oh, that hurt.
Thank you, sir.
Stop moving!
Thank you. You got it off me, you got it off me.
Never.
I had to move because I was getting destroyed.
Swordbearer is on Hat bottom left.
The Ogre Deaths instigate the 3 waves of pairs of wizards, who are next in the Revenant ad cycle, which are cleared by the ad clearers in the pit. After killing the first pair, Tooks and Hat start moving back to the towers to be ready for the Boomer Knight spawn. Sheep finds the pool of light at the bottom right position and then provides a valuable cautionary lesson as to why you don't wait there while the chalice meter fills, getting melted by Crota's darkness blasts.
On the way.
Yeah.
Bottom right for the transfer. Yeah, sheep. You already.
Yeah,
Ooh,
sheep.
sorry, I got spiced out.
I was gonna say, sheep's getting destroyed.
Jester picks up the chalice first before reviving Sheep. As he needs to get enlightened anyway to shoot the oversoul, he keeps it. The pool of light remains in the same position of bottom right as it's not yet been used for a transfer. When the last of the third wave of wizards is killed by Minnow, the Boomerites reappear and are killed by Hat and Tooks, after which they head back down to the pit to kill the ogres, and Minnow calls out the position of the sword bearer in the middle.
Alright, I've got the chalice.
You got the chalice.
It's bottom left for transfer again, so just if you charge up and then give it back, and I'll take it up. Bottom right, yep. It's the other left.
Yeah, the other left. Right.
Jester calls for Sheep to claim the chalice, becoming enlightened. As Sheep isn't yet ready, Aaron reminds everyone not to kill the swordbearer to give him time for the chalice meter to fill. Minnow calls out the pool of light as bottom left for the chalice swap and uses his smoke grenade to keep himself and Sheep safe.
Swordbearer's in middle on me.
Leave the sword bearer if we can, because sheep hasn't got Enlighten yet.
Bottom left for us, sheep. Yeah, don't kill him. Although it would be great if he wasn't standing in the thing. So when you're ready,
Dodge
shoot.
and weave.
Take it from me, please.
After Minnow claims the chalice from Sheep, he moves to the preserve bucket to store it. With no more Revenant adds to kill, Hat and Tooks head back to the summoning crystal rooms to wait for boss DPS, while the others kill the swordbearer and Sheep enlightens and picks up the sword. With this done, the whole Fireteam now heads up and inside to stay safe and prepare for the boss damage phase.
Okay, got it. Going to done.
Now kill him.
Yep. And then we should be good to go. Everybody? Yep.
So for the first three encounters, we hired professionals.
Come on.
We bait Crota into approaching the seal area by bravely hiding inside the central crystal room. When he's close enough so that the Fireteam is out of range of the Boomerites, Minnow uses his smoke grenade on the two sword bearers and Jester with a tractor cannon so they can get out to strip Crota's immunity shield. You can see how Aaron and Sheep both follow a sword heavy attack with an instantaneous sword super attack and then additional heavy attacks until the shield falls and Crota kneels. At that point you see the Crota summons his Oversoul message, a burst of bright green flame from the Oversoul, and the Hive swords also despawn. Hat drops the first well, Tooks hits Crota with a Pyrogale burning maul, and everyone starts wailing on Crota. About halfway through, Aaron hits Crota with a Gathering Storm super, and then when the first well runs out, Jester drops a second.
And then Mother Cookie stepped in. Great.
What is he doing?
Oh,
there it goes.
I don't know, just disappeared, but...
When the Oversoul timer hits 4 seconds, Minnow calls out and Jester times the Oversoul stun to perfection. You can see the Cluckers did about 2/3 of Crota's health in the first damage phase before the immunity shield is back up again. The Fireteam heads back into the summoning crystal rooms for cover before heading back out, except for Aaron, who heads to the preserve bucket to reclaim the chalice to rinse and repeat a second cycle. For the rest of the video, you can follow an individual Guardian if you want to learn more about a specific role, or across the whole Fireteam, pausing as you need to see the way the Fireteam handles the Revenant ad cycle at the same time as the enlightening process for the Sword and Oversoul Guardians, and the information flow between everyone.
Well done. 4 seconds on the Oversoul.
Oh!
Nice.
Ow!
Very nice.
Oh, all that heavy that I had last run. All that
It's
heavy.
all gone. No
no
heavy
longer
feet.
here.
Feels any better. I'm still almost full.
Top left, Aaron.
Okay, yep.
Okay, thank you, sheep.
At least I'm green, if anything.
Oh, plenty of that.
Over there.
Okay, take it off me, please. I'm behind you.
Would love to.
Thank you.
Got it.
Sword bearers on me, bottom left. Bottom mid for
transfer is center,
she
just
can
down.
just it.
Yep, I'm coming. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, 90%. Done, please take it.
People start.
Thank you very much.
And we are bottom right. And
Yep.
50%.
Is there a sword bearer? I don't see it.
No,
Yes,
boom
one
is
hasn't come out yet.
smothered to death.
Oh, shizer.
Alright.
That's German.
There we are.
Ogres are up.
Men.
Yep,
Take.
got it.
Thank you.
Right, over the dance, just a thingy now.
Just the sword
Alright,
bearers,
fine.
chalices dance.
Reload your swords. Back to the middle.
I'm a
Reload my
little
track cannon.
bit off. I'm just
I'm pretty
a
cool.
second or two off super.
I'm miles away.
Okay.
I'm honest.
Oh, we're still waiting on. Oh, he's here.
Okay. Go for it.
There we go.
Hold up.
Really wish I had. Well,
He's down for again.
Yeah.
5 seconds on the
there we go.
Oversoul.
Lovely.
Never mind.
He's
They
done.
said
I'll get it anyway.
we're gonna die today over
I
soul
got it.
anyway.
Shoot it anyway.
No, we're not.
But
No,
if you
just
take
shot
it,
it.
you
I took
don't
it.
die.
And I took it.
That's
I done it anyway. Well done.
I mean,
that was good. Good run. Actually,
If we ignore the full start from Crota, that was a very clean run.
Oh yeah.
The second cycle was a fair bit smoother than the first. As you can see, even with the additional complication of the pools of light, as long as you have the ammo, the 2 damage phase kill is pretty attainable. And that, from my perspective, at last, after a frustratingly error-free run, we demonstrate that with a little organisation, recovery from a death is straightforward. Those who are really eagle-eyed might have spotted the appearance of a 2-second Swordbearer's touch timer when Aaron and Sheep first damaged Crota's shield with a sword. This was a trait on D1 Crota's End leg armour, which granted a temporary increase to agility while carrying the sword of a Hive Swordbearer. I have no idea whether wearing raid boots provides any benefit here, or whether it's just a bit of errant legacy code. Well, that just about ties up our Crota's End guide. Hopefully you'll have picked up enough to understand how each encounter works and can feel confident in stepping forward for any of the more specialist roles. To be honest, in this raid there's really not too much to worry about, as unlike the more recent raids where some of your fireteam runs off to separate side rooms where you can't see what's going on, here everything is done in view of the whole fireteam. One final thank you to Priony for the raid maps and for making them free to use, and to Kyber from kyberscorner.com for permission to use their raid loot infographic. On behalf of the Cluckers, thank you for watching, we hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be God rolls.